We going deep today with our homie from the United Kingdom, Nathan. What's going on? I'm your host, DJ. Welcome to Calling All Beings, Saturday edition, where we will endeavor to bring on brothers and sisters, not only from the UK, but people who are from a time zone forward of the United States, to where we can make it accessible for them. This was Nathan's idea, and we're gonna try to do it at least once a month, if not more. So, without further ado, there he is, with a great haircut, with a great beard, a man who I want to be more like in 2023. Money Nathan.
I also want to be more like me in 2023. It sounds like a good goal. Yeah, happy Saturday. I love this idea because we get a chance to speak to folks that aren't in our time zone, that are in different places in the world, and not only to speak with them, but they can also jump in and help us co-host and have interviews and all that kind of fun stuff. Right. So the more the merrier. That's what we're all about here at Calling All Beings.
That's right, Deb. And we got I'm sorry I didn't bring the microphone back. Debs, we got a UK cabbie now, right? We got Franklin, my man, right?
We have a huge UK family. We got so many people, cousins, sisters, siblings.
We do. And that voice that you hear, that smooth as silk voice, that voice that wants to you to lay back in that chair, like, have a cup of Nescafe with some sort of oat milk in there and talk about what your problems is. That is a study of UAP. Deb's the host of Deb's Data Dojo. How you doing, girlfriend?
I'm doing great. You want to hear a funny story, though? I did not make coffee today. I accidentally made hot cocoa, so I'm getting chocolate today.
Woo! Amazing. Hollywood loves some hot cocoa, baby. Give us some. And let me tell you, man, who's in the chat right now. We got a superstar of the UFO universe on Earth. And that is none other than Miss Linda Thompson, somebody I admire. She's hanging out with her homegirl, who done introduced me, Julie Farrell, our mastress of the chat. And, of course, my man, another guy we endeavored to look at the fire. Nathan's got the fire going in the background. He doesn't need any kindling. He just goes doing some like Bewitched type stuff, and it just goes on fire. Davey Johnson is here, the host of Shifting Gears, and I'll tell you what, I don't want to say soon to be anymore, Davey. I want to hear a starting date for this damn thing. Let's go. But without further ado, we about to bring in the hostess with the mostest. Okay, she is a super energetic individual. She's an empath. She's a person who knows about the world of some white witchery and some stuff like that. UFOs. She got a pad down in Wales where she goes down and flip her collar up looking like she's in a J. Crew ad. She's as cool as the other side of the pillow. Put your hands together for Liverpool's own Miss Hollywood.
Hey. Hello, everybody.
Holly, you are a girl who's, you're really shy. You're really reserved. You're really introverted. Nathan and I decided today, we talked privately and said, we're going to try to draw Holly out. We're going to try to bring her out of her shell.
It's not easy.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. What are we going to do?
Yeah. She's like, my shell's been gone for 35 years. My shell's been gone. So
I'm very quiet, very, 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 very shy. So, guys, I don't know what we're going to do for the next however long, but we'll get through it together. We will. We'll traverse this together.
And you said you were going to do as much Liverpool accent as possible. You were going to ham it up, much like my wife does for me.
I shall. I think you've got a slight obsession with my dad impressions, so we may drop one or two in.
Yes, and suffix, some of your sentences with the word kid for no apparent reason. Okay?
Kids, kidda, law. We can do it all. We are multifaceted, DJ. Kid.
All right, by the way, if you guys are wondering about this headgear, this was a Christmas present that Deb was kind enough to give Nathan and I. I felt like such a loser with my Christmas gift after seeing the amazing gifts that Deb gave us at the Anomalous Symposium in New York. Forgive me, Inquiry into the Anomalous in Nueva York with James Iandoli and J.C. King. And by the way, James has helped us get some heavies, man, that are booked on the show. Dr. Jeff Kripal's coming up, Holly, and Sean S. Bjorn Hargens, who is apparently at least half Viking and maybe half Irish.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what now?
Exactly.
Does he have a wife?
She really leaned in on that one. Yeah.
I had Irish Viking.
I know, right? He was at that last symposium. He spoke at that one, and he was really fascinating guy. So we're Anon ET's in the house. What's up, Holmes? John Chapman, looking good. Holly, great ears. Yeah. I'll tell you what, Holly is. You know
ready?
What I mean?
Should we do it? Ready?
Yeah.
5,
go ahead.
4, 3, 2, 1. I've had so much fun with these.
They're incredible.
I'm 37.
37 years old?
Minutes, it seems like, with these bad boys on.
You're young. You're young.
I love
it. All right. We wanted to interview a little bit before we get into the fireside chat, whereby Nathan's going to have to leave a little bit early today. So he's going to, once we get into the fireside portion of this, he'll go first. I don't see Leah Primetime. I don't know where Primetime's at. So Nathan, if you would go ahead with the interview portion of this business, and I will text Primetime.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. And the good news is I actually don't have to leave early today. My plans have changed, so everything is good. Here for the whole thing. Yeah. So Holly, I love everything you're about. I love the ears and I love everything you're doing. But I want to jump into something that I know very little about, even though I've been there. If you could speak more to the kind of Welsh connection to the phenomena. What is it about Wales, the people, the country? There seems to be a lot of activity in that area. What's special about that?
I have a family farm in North Wales, and although we're not Welsh, we've resided there for a long time, and I grew up just outside of Liverpool in a place called the Wirral, which kind of borders onto North Wales. And for me, Wales, the places I've been, there's a mysticism about those Welsh hills. There's this kind of, you can feel the magic through the rolling hills of Snowdonia. The legends of the dragons still is prevalent. The mysteries of the Welsh gold that still tinkles through the rivers. And there's that, how there's that sort of Celtic vibe in Ireland and in Scotland. Wales for me, has a bit more of a feminine energy to it. And it is a hotspot of activity for them, whoever they may be. And there's quite a few HICE and C5 groups that I'm certainly involved with. North Wales and in the south, there's a massive UFO network down in the south of Wales, but it's still one of the United Kingdom's green places. You have the rolling hills, you have the North Sea, well, not the North Sea, Jesus Christ, where am I? You have the Irish Sea, and it's still just a place of magic and myth, and you can feel it. And to me, I think that all knits together to paint this esoteric type feeling and vibe. And I feel differently when I'm in the Welsh Hills. There's just magic.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been to the Brecon Beacons, and it's absolutely beautiful. And just as you said, the place feels a little bit here and there. There's a thinness between the realms in a way. It's very fantastical. I'd never seen green like I've seen green in Wales. It's incredibly rich, vibrant. So if you haven't had a chance to go, folks, check it out. And there are a lot of active groups there, as you said. So how often are groups kind of getting together and doing heist activities?
There's still some unknown groups. It's still there's places in Wales that are quite. I'm trying to be very diplomatic because I don't want to get my Welsh badge taken off me. But there's
be careful.
Be very careful. Sorry, I've just called you all dirty pigs in Welsh. That's probably
definitely Welsh. I don't know what you said.
I have my phaser right here. I can. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll reiterate the story. We went with a group from Liverpool and in the northwest that I helped coordinate, and we drove to the kind of hills / moors of a place called Denby, and there's very famous the Denby lights. People know about that case. So we packed ourselves up and we all ran off to the hills. And when I say it biblically rained, we were short of Noah coming along on an ark. It was that bad. We saw no light, and we didn't experience anything. But what we did experience was the change in weather was so dynamic and so quick that, at one point the mists rolled in, and it really speaks to what you said then, Nathan, that there's a kind of, you're walking between two times, and you're walking through history but the present. And Wales is just a beautiful, beautiful place, and everyone should experience a bit of time in them hills. Certainly, there's old tales of the Picts. I think if I get it right, of the small people of the hills, which were often mistaken for perhaps fae or little people. And I've had experiences in Anglesey where we had the patter of feet and the sound of voices, and we seen a string of lights pop up by the side of this beautiful oak tree, and there's nobody there. So there's magic there for sure.
Amazing. And there's a lot of consonants in Wales. Are the vowels somewhere else? Where did the vowels go?
I'm not sure, but ready, I'll do my best. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 8, 7. Any Welsh people, don't shoot me. But I think that was 10.
Amazing.
You rock, man.
But that's why Scousers have, I think, a in our accent, because Welsh, they have the and that carries over to kind of where I'm from. And just for DJ, kind of coch.
Love it. I have a lot of Jewish family that speaks like that when they speak Yiddish. So anyway, for those, I mean, we have the benefit of having somebody here from the United Kingdom that's well traveled. And so for our American audience, can you give us a sentence on, you just gave us Wales. You gave us some sentences on that. Can you give us a sentence on Scotland and a sentence on Ireland?
Me.
You. Yeah, definitely not us. One. You really know it. I mean, we know what we've read about it, or, went on vacation maybe.
For me, I come from an Irish family. So for me, Ireland is it's the green, it's the land of magic, and it's just a beautiful place. But it's like the Emerald Isle. So for me, when I go back to Ireland, there's always a warm hug and a warm tradition, and there's always a openness of heart in Ireland. I spent time hitchhiking around the south coast of Ireland many years ago, and I didn't have any money. I had a couple of quid, and I was welcomed by all of these beautiful little Irish nans that just wanted to feed me soda bread and make sure I'd gone to mass and I'd said my prayers. And the mysticism of Catholicism is still has its own tradition in Ireland. And I think I haven't actually spent too much time in Scotland. The times I have spent there, I went to find Nessie. Turns out she's really, really, really hard to find. But for me, Scotland has its Scotland feels very male in its energy for me. I spent some time up in a place called Callanish, a stone circle up there, and I had a heist experience in that circle. So there's magic across our fair kingdom, and that's what makes England so beautiful. You can drive 4 hours and you can be transported to another time, another place. You can walk with history. And I think that's what's so beautiful about Britain, is that you can walk the path of the Celtics, you can walk the path of the Vikings, you can find yourself in a rolling, mistful castle and hear the traditions of old. And I've spent a lot of time with some druid orders in the south, and there's just magic. If you just scratch beneath the surface, there's magic everywhere. So yeah, come to England.
It's well, you have two people here that it's like, I mean, Deb's been overseas as well. I don't know. I know she's been in Germany, and I don't know about England. She's going to tell you here in a second. But Nathan and I both love England. I mean, I just am infatuated with the place, frankly. Debs, go ahead, my friend.
Oh yeah, I've been to Egypt, and Germany and Italy and a few other places. Pompeii gets that sensation of walking back in time too, but I have not gotten to go to England just yet. I was in the airport for France though. I guess that will count for something. but but I wanted to ask if I can about a recent publication I saw referring to the women of ufology. If you could just tell people about that future publication talking about a young lady who does CE5 and yeah. What can you
Who's
tell
that?
people about? It was Hollywood.
Wow!
I didn't see that coming.
He's so funny, Nathan. What was the question? Talking about CE5 in the UK?
Yeah, with the article
The
that you were
publication,
just saying.
the article.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was a reshare from last year. I've worked in public relations for most of my life, and I kind of noticed that sometimes the press isn't so kind to those of us who are into UFOs, or those of us certainly who stand in fields trying to make contact with them. Um, so I was approached by the Daily Mail, and it was around about the same time that our wonderful mates over at UAP Media releasing all the Colvine stuff. So there was an air of kindness about those of us that are in this community and, are in this topic. So they reached out to me and we did an article, and they were really quite cool and kind, and they publicized my involvement in the C5 and heist community here in the UK, but they also wanted to highlight females, sisters doing it, because more often than not, sorry chaps, it can be quite male dominated. And they really wanted to put the spotlight on, female UFO researchers. Um, they initially wanted to call us hunters, and I was like, absolutely not, negative connotation. And they were just really cool. And I've established a really quite good relationship with that journalist, and actually, God, I can't hold my own water. Something
If you have to go to the bathroom, go ahead.
something will be coming soon. A bit of a follow-up, I believe. Because I broke my leg, so I was unable to do a follow-up with them. But I have invited and extended the invitation for them to come and join us in the field at one of our heist sessions, which really putting it out there, aren't we? But yeah, we shall see. But it was a great article. Very, very, very blessed that they took the interest in. Ultimately, what that article did is it opened a lot of conversations for me, and it opened a lot of people came forward, people who wouldn't necessarily speak up. I'm very secure in my job. I'm very secure in my life. I have had contact with them. I'm happy to talk about that till the cows come home. But some people aren't, and that article inspired a bit of confidence in some people that wouldn't have come forward, and some of those people I'm really lucky to call friends now and colleagues within this topic. So it did some good, which I'm all about doing good where you can.
Does that mean that when the cows come home, you have to stop talking about it? Because you said you'll talk about it until they come home. Then what happens?
They come home, and then we take a scheduled break, and then we turn the lights off and do this.
But there's no lasers and cattle mutilation, like you're not cutting out like
no.
Okay.
No.
That's good. All right. Can you describe yourself, Holly? Could you, for the audience, just explain who you see yourself as?
Who do I see myself out? I'm a mum. I'm a friend. I'm as mad as a box of frogs.
Really?
I'm yeah. I've heard these rumors, these vicious rumors. I'm curious about the unseen. I was brought up in a very esoteric way. My mother was a very well-known mystic and white witch. So my kind of shimmy into this world has been from a child, and I think I toe the line between mischief and curiosity quite well. And I'm a big believer in together we can, and as we explore the mysteries of this world that's unraveling around us, and in this topic and this phenomena, I believe that my part to play is creating conversation around it. And no disrespect to our American brothers and cousins. There's been a lot from America, and where are the Brits in the conversation? So, that's a big passion of mine, is being, I can't represent everyone, especially with this accent, but if I can create
Sure you can.
conversation, do you think? Was it Scotia?
Sure you can. Sure you can. Like people like yourself and Priscilla, I mean, you guys are birds of a feather. That's what the topic does, is it bring, I just was she just sent me a text, and I was like, you can join us if you want to. And she's like cleaning right now, but she does appreciate the invitation. But anyway, it brings people together around a common topic, and there's a lot, obviously, that can be accomplished by this, as you can see by what's happened here.
For sure. And as I walk through this topic and this phenomenon, and I have my experiences, there's not a day that goes by that I don't feel so lucky that, although we don't know everything, we may never know everything, but we get to uncover this whole subject that is bigger than all of us. It's bigger than anything we can ever dream up. This is huge. This is for me the most pressing issue of the day. And how lucky am I that I'm in a situation where I get to have these conversations, and perhaps bring the conversation forward, and certainly represent some of our great authors, some of our great researchers, create conversation for the Brits. So I'm certainly flying the Brit flag quite a lot at the moment, which is great.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing before I pass it to Nathan. When you look at this Roswell symposium that's coming up, look who they've asked to come and speak at that. I believe Vinny's speaking, Graham is speaking. Who's the other person? Is it Dan? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I've not caught. It's definitely Vinny and Graham.
Definitely, so that tells you that it's not, your accent doesn't matter and all that. It's just people gravitate to what you say and your authenticity, and it doesn't really matter what the filter is that goes through in terms of how you sound. So,
for sure,
anyway.
Absolutely. I was so thrilled, and I'm so proud to call them my friends. I'm so proud to call them my colleagues, because we have become one global community. Next stop, Australia. I'm just trying to blag a free holiday to Australia. That's all.
Go ahead, Money.
Well, I just want to echo something that GJ just said. The way I got a chance to listen to your Joseph Burke's Twitter space, and it was excellent. Of course, he's amazing. But one of the reasons why it was also very good is just the way that you make space for everyone. And it's obvious, it's wonderful, it's refreshing, and you're one of those voices in the community that is working hard, at least as far as I can tell, to foster these connections, relationships, constructive conversation. Where does that come from? I mean, what's the impetus behind that for you?
Good question. Where does it come from? I come from a family where you were seen and not heard. I come from an environment where, probably without getting too deep, because this is not a therapy session.
But Deb can take you through therapy right after the show. She's very cheap for that. It's not.
She's a good one.
Takes PayPal.
I just cash out. And I got into PR when I was about 19, 20, and I just, I'm many things in life. I'm forgetful, I'm ridiculous, I'm very mischievous. I'm as textbook as ADHD as you can get, but I have a way of having conversations with people. And for some reason, people like to speak to me. And when I got involved in this sort of heist community, some time ago, I felt that there was so many quiet conversations happening. And I just said, if one of my skill sets is to be loud and proud about what we're doing and put people together, well, why wouldn't I? So I've been so lucky that I've been able to draw on my professional background to put people together. And unfortunately, because I'm Northern, or fortunately, I'm Northern English, we're not very good with the word no. It just means not yet. So I'm quite relentless in my approach to create conversations. And what's been so interesting to me is I worked with people in the public eye previously in my career, so you know I'm not that shy and retiring and just saying, "Hey, would you?" The worst somebody can say is, "No, thank you." All right, we'll move on to the next person. But the conversation with Dr. Joseph Beck, what a guy! Like he's the daddy of heist, and I was introduced to him very quickly when I joined the kind of UK scene, and he's just a phenomenal person. And actually, we spoke a couple of days ago, and we will be doing another space real soon. So I'll yeah, a bit more on that coming soon. But yeah, he's great. But if I can create dialogue and I can create a space for people who are curious to explore that curiosity, I think that's my purpose. So I like to live within my purpose and I can't shut up, clearly.
What was that? No, I'm just kidding. Debsy. Oh, you know what? Do you guys want to start the round? Well, actually, if you have another question for just Holly about her, Debs, please fire away. And then whenever you guys are ready, we'll start the round table where we'll bring our topics to the fore.
Yeah, just one more question. I was wondering if you
Yes,
would
ma'am.
mind sharing some of your experiences.
Hold on to your underpants. My I've had many experiences, some beautiful ones. I've had one that was quite startling, not scary, but startling and made me really question my worldview. But my first experience was down in Wiltshire, a beautiful, beautiful, magical spot where Stonehenge and Glastonbury Tor and Avebury kind of within the vicinity, all sacred sites that are on ley lines here in the UK. I seen a bright burning orange sun, as I described it as a small child. It was an orange orb. Um, you know, moving throughout my childhood, these orbs have appeared to me many, many, many times. And because my mum was all a bit magical, I thought everyone had that. Didn't, I just thought it was quite normal. And more recently, when I broke my leg and I was very, very poorly in hospital, in a high dependent unit, I'd sort of became quite depressed given the situation I was in, and those orbs appeared to me again outside of the hospital. So for me, that was a strong confirmation that I have some link with them. And it sounds nuts, I get that. But those orbs or balls of small light, very, very orange, very, very bright orange, have come to me during traumatic periods in my life. When my mother died, I seen them. Happy times in my life when I had my son. I see something caught my eye outside. So they've been my predominant experiences on a personal level. On a sort of C5 heist level, we've had some epic, epic things happen. We have access to excuse me, we have access to some land in the near a place called Blackpool, in northwest England. And this farm is a hive of paranormal activity, strange lights, craft. Delivery drivers will no longer drop parcels off anymore. One of the drivers had to pull over and have a stiff brandy because he couldn't comprehend these lights and energy balls whooshing at the front of his vehicle. So we spent some time up there last summer, and independently, two crews of our gang of our team um, saw the same manifestation of a craft with a sort of iridescent, shimmering, like bubble, like when kids blow bubbles like that around it, and we'd seen it independently from two vantage points. So we've experienced some wild things. We captured what looks like an energy ball that forms into a kind of human looking face on camera. So we've had some lights have danced before us, and very typical things. If you're into C5, those have happened. So I've got a really wide range of experiences that have happened to me, but the more personal ones have always happened for a reason, I believe, and I believe that's what drives my curiosity more into this topic.
The David Paulides movie, Holly, the latest one that I think he's attributing a certain amount of the missing persons to UFO abduction. And that's something over the last 6 months, particularly preceding and subsequent to our Jim Semivan interview, resonates with me more and more. And you know what? This question, I want to go around the table here, even though it's not technically wasn't my round table question, but I think that is plausible. What are your feelings about that? Do you think that there's a certain number of people who have been abducted and not come back?
This whole abduction part of the phenomenon has always terrified me. Unbelievably terrified me. I get very triggered by this topic, and I don't know why. And it's something I started to question. Well, why am I so triggered? What is something happened about? Why does this do this to me? And I watched that documentary, and it 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 I left watching it posing lots of questions to myself, and I think people are going, and it's part of the phenomenon that gives me the chills, because the experiences I have and have had, what one's been startling, but it was more trickstery. It was more kind of no than scary. But that part of this element of the phenomenon, it gives me chills because I don't like it. People shouldn't be being taken. Why are they being taken? And it started to play with my worldview, or my view on this whole thing, and it's something I want to know more about. But I find it quite scary, if the truth be told. I think people are being taken, but why?
Well, what's funny is that question started off as I was going to ask you about when that man, I believe he was hunting and he saw a cube appear on the ground. And it was sort of clear, but he could see the outline of a cube. And I believe he was abducted and then came back. But and it morphed into the abduction question. So Nathan, if you would please weigh in on that.
Yeah, I mean, Holly, I think you hit it really well. I struggle with this because it is very disturbing, and we don't want to consider that is taking place, because it's hard to wrestle with that notion. We want to feel some degree of control, safety in our own homes. It's happening to a lot of children reportedly, and that is just absolutely horrible. So I take it very seriously. I believe people who have said that it's happened to them. As far as like what it means and why they would do it, we could probably levy the same sort of questions to human beings that take other creatures out of their habitats and do things with them. We don't really question that very much, and oftentimes we say that's a very good thing that we do that. We're taking care of a creature, helping heal it, or returning it to its habitat in a better state than we found it. At least that's what we tell ourselves. And for the creature itself, it could be quite traumatic. Even if they are better off than they were before, they may still have a trauma around the entire experience, even if biologically they're healthier as a result of it. So I think we have to, for me, take it seriously, but also wrestle. It should confront us with the things that we do in our own world with our power, and should confront us in asking, what is okay for us to do? And if it's okay for us to do this, why would it not be okay for other beings that are, have a higher perspective? And I'm just using that word broadly, a bigger perspective than we do about what's taking place. They may have a good intention behind it. Now they may not, and I think some of them don't. I think some of them, quite frankly, from everything that we've heard, are not doing this with a good intention. They're doing it just to mess with us, and may take some degree of pleasure or satisfaction out of that. Just like some humans would do that, right? They would take
Mhm.
pleasure out of harming another creature just because it makes them feel powerful.
Yes.
It's
I was going to say, I tell people, I've seen kids over at the beach where I go do my swim training, and they're hauling some jellyfish out of its go, hey, mom, look at this with their net. And I'm like, dude, you're taking that out of its home. Like that,
yeah.
like it belongs in the water. Like you don't take that and stick it in a bucket on the beach. It would be like someone taking you out of your home, and it's okay. Yeah. I mean, sure, right. Well, why shouldn't someone just take it? Of course it's not right. You know, if you want to take a look at it and put it back in the water, fine. But if you're putting it in a bucket on the beach, you've removed it, like you said, from its habitat. There's a reason. That's why I don't have fish in my house. This is exactly that reason. Debs, to get back to kind of like the center of the question, Debs, do you think that there are people that are being taken and not coming back? So what turns into kidnapping where they're returned, and Rick Doty tells that story that happened out, I don't know if it was Nellis or one of those bases in Nevada, where the couple got their children back, their son and daughter, several hours later on a road outside of Nellis. But it becomes murder from our perspective if they leave and don't come back. And Terry Lovelace has a chilling story about that. What's your take on that, Debs? Are people being taken and not coming back?
Yes, they are. And the reasons for being taken are complicated and vast, especially because it seems to be more than one group involved. I point out that even if grays are being used, they may not be all being used by the same group either. So there's a lot of complicated aspects to this, including the fact that sometimes people are consciously being abducted as opposed to physically. You know, there's some really weird things. But to answer your question, yes, I do think people are leaving and not coming back. We have just a huge number of people that go missing, and it just becomes a statistic to most of us. We hardly, unless it happens to you personally, a lot of people are just like, yeah, a lot of people go missing and shrug. So I have to point out though that the purpose for that, we're thinking about it in human terms, of course. Like this could be an attempt to preserve us, because the messaging is often, you're killing your planet. And I know this kind of goes into like the zoo hypothesis a little bit, but it's possible that they're just trying to preserve us.
Wow.
That's one of them, right? I mean, it absolutely could be. A topic of abductions, yeah. I just maintain that if there's one statistic that you could name any government on planet Earth of a nation that they don't want to talk about, that they may have a statistic that they attribute based on various reporting sources, this is the biggest thing they don't want to talk about. Because you have to think, if Hollywood is unnerved by this and she is deeply embedded in this topic, can you imagine a layperson, soccer mom who doesn't even know that there's legislation right now, how they would be freaked out if they turned on their news station and heard the government talk about this? It would be terrifying. Even Wes, right, Nathan? When Wes, the host of probably the biggest show, Sasquatch Chronicles, when you bring up UFOs, he freaks out. Right?
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah.
he uses the word terrifying. Just talking about UFOs, he uses the word terrifying in every instance that I've heard. Think about that. This is a guy who's had a Bigfoot experience and he has over 900 episodes of Bigfoot encounters. But the thought of UFOs terrifies him because he looks at life. I shouldn't say because. It could be part of it because he looks at life through the Bible, and this doesn't fit in his mind, I guess.
DJ, what kind of brought abductions more to my sphere of control and influence? I won't name them, but a very dear friend of mine is an author here in the UK. He's due to release a book about his experience, his former military, and we've become real good friends, Michael. And when he described his experience to me, and I could hear the unsettled pain, confusion, what it's done to his life, that's when I thought, you know what, as great as it is, me standing in a field and, hey, let's make contact, let's meditate. There's some real stuff going on here. And that's to me when the layer of this phenomenon, a new layer was added. It's like I was, in a video game when you get an extra, I leveled into a different space. And I think we need to talk about it more because there are people out there, and I'm contacted very frequently now. There's people certainly in the UK that don't have any work because, you've got the Experience in Networks, you've got UK Medical Coalition, you've got loads of great people and resources looking after people in the States. We don't have that much in the UK. And there are people coming forward very regularly now saying, I think something happened to me. I've had these marks, I've missed time, this, that, and the other. I've been regressed, and these terrible things of it I'm aware of. And we have a lot of work to do in the UK to look after people who've experienced these things. And I think that's something that does keep me up at night, worrying that how can we help, or how can we support these people? It's scary.
You can actually hook up with UAPMD, and it won't even cost you a plane ticket. You just have to email Deb. So there's
absolutely.
So that's one thing.
It was on one of my to-dos over the next couple of weeks, actually. How can we help more? How can we help our brothers and sisters here in the UK more? Because stuff's happening. Stuff has happened. And if I'm here to help tell their stories, we ought to be able to help their soul and their mental, their state, because it's not great.
Yeah, this is one of the things Deb's done that we're extremely proud of. We had absolutely nothing to do with it, but we're proud of that she's part of our team and that she did it. But I just want to say this. There's an interesting, I want to point everybody to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, who had an episode yesterday or the day before. And to talk about connection and how this is all connected. And Nate, I'm going to come to you next, Nathan, so you could put your topic out there. But this gentleman named Glenn Jackson is a paramedic and paramedic instructor near Atlanta. He's from North Georgia. And his experiences, and I'll send you the pod, Holly, it's going to blow your mind. But not only has he had Bigfoot experiences, and they had an experience that Terry Windell told us, and Glenn Jackson, who was present out in the woods when this happened, that combines a portal in the woods when they were looking for Bigfoot, but found a portal. And then after that incident, one of their very fit Special Forces members died of a massive heart attack. Another person developed cancer. And I think, and Glenn Jackson himself came down with a very strange medical condition. It took him 1.5 years to clear up. This dude is one of the most professional dudes I've heard of, and he has missing time and UFO. So first of all, he did the Monroe Institute program. What's that called? The Gateway program.
Gateway tapes.
Yes, he went to.
Be very careful.
Yes, he went to that, and now all these things are happening to him, and it's on all three of these genres. So yeah, I mean, the more you guys have, taught me that this is connected. So that's all I'd say. Check out everybody. Check out Dave Scott's Spaced Out Radio with Glenn Jackson, and have your mind blown like mine was. Go ahead, Money.
I want to kind of take this a little bit further because it's a really good topic, and talk about trauma and the way that we deal with trauma. Holly, I know you've had experience with listening to experiences from others who've had this and deal with it day to day. And Deb, I really want your take on this as well, and DJ from your military experience and your colleagues who've dealt with trauma. So we have a way of working with trauma now that is, in some ways, it's very compartmentalized, right? So we sort of clinically address the trauma, and we help the individual sort of, fit it within a framework that they can manage and go about their life. and keep it under control and kind of function in society. That's sort of, reaching a state of function is one of the goals here. But I wonder if that's really dealing with the trauma. I mean, obviously it's helping them go about their day-to-day life, but is it really addressing the core issue? And in some ways, the way we treat trauma like that is it's very clean. We kind of like, wiping our hands with it. And it's like, it's not really there, la, la, la. Like we kind of dealt with it now. We put it in this little place over here. And I don't have to consider the ramifications of what caused the trauma, that it's real, it exists, it's with us. And I don't necessarily have to address it directly. We've just now kind of contained it in a fence in a way. So I wonder what your thoughts are. Like, is the way we kind of deal with trauma in modern day, with these different treatments, is it the right way to deal with it?
It's really interesting that we've come to this place in the conversation. God, I feel like we're gonna get very deep now. I turn my flashing lights off.
Going deep, baby.
We're going in. I had a very traumatic childhood. We moved around a lot. As great as my esoteric mother was, she wasn't. She was great at the esoteric stuff. She wasn't as great at the mother stuff. And I've carried a lot of trauma as a result of my childhood experiences, which coincidentally a lot of people involved in the phenomenon seem to have a little trauma track with them, which I find I'm really exploring that myself at the moment. But I spent my late 20s addressing my trauma through spirituality, through exploration of mysticism, through yoga, through all of these esoteric paths that helped me to face them. And as you so well put it, Nathan, is and British people, I think as well, we can put things in a box, stiff off the lip, put it away, and then we crack on. And for me, being able to work with my shadows and understand the trauma that I have, the more I have been able to confront trauma, the more I've been involved and the deeper I've got into the phenomenon, the mysticism side, the esoteric side, which is all weaved together. And I'm starting to realize that the people I meet through the work that I do, one, all carry trauma. Two, are at a point in their life when they're processing it and may be able to accept it. And then three, they find themselves in this bizarre topic. And I'm now starting to really believe there's some link here. What makes a believer of the phenomenon and a non-believer? The believers seem to all have had very not similar, identical situations, but we've all carrying something. We've all had our souls touched in different ways, and I've been on this one for about 3 or 4 weeks, really trying to understand: is trauma a springboard into discovery? That's what's been interesting recently as well is I'm starting to find a lot of our colleagues and our friends, our mutual friends and people in this community, a lot of them have a lot of neurodiverse challenges as well. And is that coincidence? Is trauma and a bit of neurospiciness? Is it all hand in hand? Is that why we are believers? Is that what brings us to this topic? Is it related? I think so.
Yeah, let me pass it to Debs. Debs, I'm not going to comment because it's not my turn. So go ahead, Debs.
Well, there's a lot I could say to this one. Obviously, it could be an hour and a half alone. But first of all, I wanted to say that not everyone is going to be able to respond to trauma the same way. Some people can face it head on. Some people have to put it on the shelf to function.
Yeah.
Like they just have to. So we actually have some defenses in place when we have trauma. And, one of them is, just forgetting altogether. And that's that shelving that happens. And it's just a survival technique, right? But another thing that can happen is that it can be transformative for people. It can make them evolve into something else. And I think there might even be a biological aspect to it that may connect directly to the phenomenon, like your perceptions are increased, your intuitions are increased as a survival mechanism. So basically, you start to perceive things you weren't noticing before because you're on heightened alert, because that's how you survive after trauma. So,
wow.
Going to Nathan's question, and it was a great one, and it comes from the heart, because there's a frustration in Nathan's voice in our inability to deal with trauma, sometimes in a real way. We have, practitioners who do it. Deb is one of them. And I think one of the limitations is that we're human. So we can only, try to help that person find the path. Deb can't turn their body and point them in a direction, but she can say, if you turn this way and look this way, that could be one path out, right? So we're very limited in what we can do. And I'm reminded of, we were talking about this show prior to us coming on air with you guys, called The Mayor of Kingstown. And in that, a young lady who had been hired by some sort of a Russian mobster and sent to Kingstown to use her feminine wiles to gain favor with the mayor and get him to do something. And he says, no, no, thank you. He goes, and by the way, I recommend that you go back to New York, because the path you're headed on, you're not ready for. I know you think that you're really tough and you can handle this, and things are not going to end well for you. It's something analogous to that. Jeremy Renner does it a lot better than I do. What ends up happening is she ends up being, as a prostitute, and she's sold from one group to another, ends up with this Aryan group, and they abuse her quite badly and inject her with drugs, and she has bruises all over her body. And finally, a group of Crips contacts the mayor, and he's able to go and pick her up. And when he brought her to his cabin in the woods, she's sitting on the floor. She's kind of being very reflective about what's happened to her and saying that basically something analogous to a part of me is gone. And one of the ironies of all this is that the phenomenon does have the ability to make you forget as if something never happened to you, and that they can somehow put you in a place where they do something and they're able to get inside your being, and somehow you forget that it happened. And because we as humans can't do that on our own, we have our Debs, and they're going to try to point you in a direction to deal with this and to find your self-worth again and find your strength and realize that it's not something that you did that caused this, that sometimes we're victims, and that doesn't mean that you can't rebuild your life in this way, and that you are something that's valuable and beautiful and unique and worthy and all these things. But the phenomenon does have that ability, and that's the irony of it. I think we're limited to deal with the trauma, Nathan, because we're human, and we don't necessarily have the ability to wipe that out of your soul, if you will. There's an imprint sometimes that a traumatic event puts on your soul, and it just never leaves. You just learn to, what Holly said, stiff upper lip, crack on. Yeah. Sadly. So with that, if you don't have follow-up commentary, we'll go to the next H. Wood.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. H. Wood, what's your topic?
My topic is quite related to this question, interestingly enough, Nathan. Like we knew. So, and I was going to weave my old man into it, me dad. So, my topic is believers versus non-believers. What makes, what separates the two? Now, my dad, and an impression's coming, DJ, you ready? My dad was like, can I swear? Am I allowed to swear?
This is up to Nathan.
It's fine. Yeah, whatever.
Oh, no, we'll use other words. My dad calls me.
Wait, hold up. These are not swear words in Liverpool. This is normal conversation. So for the purposes of this episode, we're in Liverpool. So go ahead.
I don't want you to get deplatformed. My dad
Go ahead.
caught and went, "What the flip are you on about with these aliens? What you've gone mad? You've gone mad. You need a doctor." And I was like, "No, I've not. No, I've not gone mad, Dad. I'm perfectly sane. I'm all right." He was like, "No, you've gone mad because you're on the internet talking about it with weirdos, and it's not okay. I'm dead worried about you, and it's not effing real. And I think you've gone mad." And he was genuinely thinking, woohoo! It was time for me to get a psychiatric evaluation. And as funny as it was, and okay, whatever, Dad, it posed a question to me. What makes believers believe, and what makes non-believers completely dismiss it? So I have
cognitive dissonance. Sorry, go ahead.
But there's people in my life that even when I print reports off I print off physically, here you go. This is from such and such. This is from this government. Here you go. Read it like black and white. Have it tangibly. They will still go, yeah, but come on. Really? Come on. And they look at me like I've one flew over the cuckoo's nest. And so my question is, what makes a non-believer non-believe, and what makes it, we know what makes believers believe, but why are these, what's it going to take? Okay, rephrase. What's it going to take to inform the non-believers that the phenomenon is very real? What's it going to take? Because we've had confirmation in a way from the US government. We've got overwhelming evidence from very credible people. I had 2 former British intel people on a space last week. Still, this person in my life's going, yeah, but Kim Kardashian's got a new bum. Yeah, but, and it's like, what would it take to make non-believers believe? Is it, Grey's tap dancing on the White House? What would it take? And that is my question. What would it take to make non-believers buy into the reality of the phenomenon being real? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Deb, I'd love for you to take that first, if you don't mind.
Oh, really? That's great, because I made a list.
Awesome.
Okay, first of all, we need to have people admit that the stigma program existed and infiltrated our film, and being movies. That it was, and second, we need some people to just have the experience. Some people don't believe until they have the experience. Third, we need people to overcome their arrogance, and that's a big leap for a lot of people. The arrogance that existed when people didn't believe in the platypus or the gorillas. The arrogance that keeps people from accepting that their own beliefs are actually somewhat out there, but these beliefs, for some reason, they can't accept. I don't understand how that happens, but it does. So sort of understanding that there's stuff for us left to learn, if that makes sense. And then I also wrote, people just have to maybe accept taking the harder path sometimes. I think some people just think it's easier not to believe. It's easier not to have the conversation or the revelation. So they might just have to take the harder path. So those were the things I came up with while you were talking.
For sure.
Awesome. Yeah, really solid. I mean, I think that there's a thin line between order and chaos for most people. That we've done a really good job tricking ourselves into thinking that we've got things figured out, that the world that we traffic in and understand, we understand it, we know how it behaves, that things make sense to us. And this is one of those topics that if you just make space for it, if you are a person who just says, well, I'm open to the idea, it begins creating rifts and cracks within that order that allow you to kind of go about your day to day. And, it's one of those issues where in a way, we've sort of tricked ourselves into forgetting that we're really animals. We're animals with ideas and tools. We've done some amazing things with that, but at the end of the day, we're still creatures, just like the rest of the creatures that are sharing this planet with us. And for many, I think going down this path, going down this rabbit hole, is just too disruptive. Because it frustrates me as well, because I'm into the topic. Obviously, I'm here, and I have a huge interest in a lot of the special topics that are talked about all the time. But I don't necessarily have my beliefs aren't. Some of them are concrete, but they're not terrifically concrete. But I'm comfortable in that ambiguity, right? So I'm okay with that ambiguity of knowing, not knowing, it being some mystery. Me wanting to believe people and what they're telling me. I have faith in people, and I would rather believe them than reject them and turn them away. That's just my personality. But a lot of folks aren't like that, and I get it. It's not for everyone, and you kind of need to be in a certain place. Everybody's on their own path, and to kind of force someone to believe when they're not ready for that, then that could be pretty, as we mentioned earlier, pretty traumatic for them.
Absolutely. Something I've certainly struggled with, given my work within C5, well, HICE more so. I get contacted by a whole plethora of people. And yeah, I had a particular person contact me, and she was struggling with her claim was that all of her family were complete against her diligence and her shimmy into this world, but beings were now at the bottom of her garden on a nightly basis, and they were interacting with her, and they were hurting her, and she had marks on her, and none of her family believed, and she was I don't know if that was really happening to her. I didn't want to reject her. I wanted to accept her because she was so alone, because her family were ready to, the words, they wanted to have her psychiatrically evaluated. You know, I don't know if what she was experiencing was real. It felt real to her, but the fact that she was so alone in whatever was happening to her, because the complete dismissal, that no, it doesn't exist. No, you're crazy. You've got a psychiatric challenge. You're hallucinating. You're having auditory hallucinations. Da 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 da. And it's that fine line to walk, isn't it? That there is the struggle sometimes. Hmm. And it's such a diverse thing to unpack, isn't it? Really.
One thing I would say is, as someone who's trying to help mental health professionals figure out how to deal with experiencers, we've really emphasized it doesn't matter if a person treating that person believes or not. What they need to treat is the symptoms.
Yeah.
They need to treat that trauma. They need to treat if this person is seeing something that scares them. They need to treat that. They don't. Their personal belief ultimately won't matter in helping these experiencers. So that's an aspect. But I have the same thought all the time. Like, we see the most bizarre creatures on this planet, but as soon as someone throws up a picture of a gray, everyone's like, oh, no, 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 of course not. It's just a weird mind trick that we're doing to ourselves. I don't know.
It's that almost. It's that some people go no. It's that instantaneous impossibility, implausibility of the possibility. God, there's a lot of illities in that. That there could be more than what we see, and we're so quick as to to believe in things that go bump in the night. We're so, "Ooh," but possibility of them, whoever they may be, is often met with such strict no, it can't. And I struggle with that sometimes, but we're all unpacking this mystery one challenge at a time, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's weird because of the other things we've learned to accept, right? I wonder if people went through the same thing when they were trying to figure out how the sun related to the planets. You know?
Sure.
Hey guys, just want to let you know I'm back. And Kati gave me her AirPods. I don't know why mine were dropping dead. They've never gone dead within the space of one show. So.
That's right.
Yeah, this is
Well, I
Holly.
think it's time. I think it's time. Hold on, everybody. I'm gonna be
Nailed it.
H Wood. All right.
Bam.
All right. So
Well,
I don't know what I've missed. You guys are gonna have to let me know where we're
jump
at.
in a second here. So Holly, I want to kind of come back to you again with this, with your public relations background, right? So, so you're a student of human nature in many ways. Looking at how humans react to marketing, how they respond to messaging, and a lot of this really is, I think, comes down to human beings are our tendency to need to see others doing something before we also do something. It's like the experiment where he walks into a field and everybody's staring up, looking at the sky at this one thing, and the person's like, well, and they're all saying there's a thing right there, and I want to see. They're going to immediately do that thing that everyone's doing. So I look at disclosure in some ways like this, right? The world is sort of looking around the room of the world and looking for people going, there's a there, and when enough theirs are there, I love saying that, then it's like, oh, well, now I have permission. I can actually believe this. And it's safe to say. So what's your take on that from just a human nature perspective?
Humans, we aren't as complex as sometimes we seem. We're actually animals, and we're not that complex. We are a herd species. We will always go together where we can. But I think in this day of information overload, we don't know our arse from our elbow. Sorry, I swore. And I think that I'm finding now there's more people more willing to accept the possibility than ever before, and I think that's because there's been kinder media. There's more shows like this. People are like myself, who is come from a certain background that you wouldn't necessarily would think would stand up and say, "Hey, I'm an experiencer." I think I get challenged with this sometimes. That I think there's a strong, like, the younger generation, like my kids and my nieces and nephews, a younger generation are more open to believe the existence of something. I think the older generations are the ones that have had less technology in their lives and less acclimatization to things. Like, I'm a Star Trek nut, so of course it's going to be something that's in my world. But I think that I feel there's a ripple of change in the air with public perception, and I think that that's a great thing. I think it's part of the acclimatization process as well, that we've had all of this stuff like flashed at us for so long. But naturally, we are a herd species, so until the great and the good en masse, it takes 10% of of the population to change the collective consciousness. Until we reach that 10% of people going, this is real. You know, what's interesting to me is I speak to my friends and I will say a name that we all know, and such has just come out and said such and such, and da, da, da. And they're like, who? What? Means nothing. And unfortunately, our community can be sometimes a bit of an echo chamber, because we've all herded together to to pass our thoughts and information and feelings around. And I just wonder, is the next phase of this disclosure, is it being able to speak differently to outside of our community? Is that how we reach a collective consciousness of understanding or possibility believing? I don't think I answered your question, but I certainly gave you some discussion points.
Oh, that was great. DJ, I want to hear from you.
It's that echo chamber, I think, that interests me so much. How do we break that? How do we break out of this mold that we've carefully crafted in our community, because we've herded together? How do we break that wall down?
Right. So key.
Was it Holly's question about
Sorry, I just mixed it up.
No, was I Nathan? Am I on Holly's question or am I on your question?
Just whatever you want to jump in on. We're just chatting, man.
Okay. I believe Holly's question was, were you, Holly, if you can restate your question again, just to make sure I got it.
So how do we break out of this kind of echo chamber in our community to reach the rest of the world, to ensure that they can kind of, how are we reaching more people to get disclosure happening? Because we can all talk to each other all day long and we believe, but how are we getting John and Jane? How are they going to understand? How are they going to evolve?
Okay, because the question I thought you had was something about why people don't believe. Was something
that's what
about
we started with.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to answer. Get that one first. So I think there is a cognitive dissonance that people they believe but they don't want to believe. And when you don't want to do something, you tell yourself this is what's going on. So I was on Sasquatch Odyssey 2 days ago, something like that. And we recorded an episode, and the host of that, who will be on at some point, his name is Brian King Sharp, I think is his name. In any case, he does have quite a big show, and he would say half the time I believe in Bigfoot, half the time I don't. 5 days a week, I believe the Patterson Gimlin film's real. The other 2 days I don't. And I was like, so I'm like, but people have decided they don't want to believe. When I see something, I want to explain it away that this is not real. Because if it's real, I have to change my worldview, and I'm not down with that. We have a story, the cabbies have a story of where we had this guest on who had come on my show on another genre when we were talking about reality TV. This lady named Kate Casey, who's an amazing person. And when we brought her on to Cab for UFOs, she basically just went, I am not trying to hear what you're saying because you are not changing my worldview. Do you got it? Do you understand? So that's what you're up against in terms of people, even people who have a Bigfoot show like Brian, who we'll bring him on, and we'll ask him about his theories. He's a police officer by trade, retired police officer. And in the case of us, I would argue that I don't think we're in an echo chamber, actually. There's so much discord in the problem in the UFO community is that we can't agree on anything. We don't trust the same people. We trust people. If you are very, very fearful of this and what it might mean, then maybe you trust Mick West and he becomes your rabbi. If you're thinking, well, disclosures happened, we have legislation, it's been talked about in the Hill, maybe Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon are your rabbis. So I don't necessarily think that we are in an echo chamber. I think it can seem that way because of your friend group, but it wouldn't take you 5 minutes to get into a screaming match with somebody on UFO Twitter if you wanted to. So I don't think that's our problem. I think what our problem is that we can't coalesce around a set of evidence that is quite proven without question. There is no question that there would be no legislation on the Hill and talked about if we didn't have Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Jim Semivan, and Tom DeLonge, and these, and you can add some outliers to that group as well that are maybe on the periphery of that central group. That is an idea that you cannot debate that. It's beyond debate, but people can't agree on that. They go, Lou's a double agent. Meanwhile, we sat there, Nathan, myself, and Deb, and spoke with he and his wife on camera, off air, and his wife told us about the moment when he came home and said, I'm quitting the Pentagon and my GS-15 salary and my GS-15 retirement package over UFOs, something that this kid would not do. Wow. That's sacrifice. That's skin in the game. Not, I tweeted about stuff for a year and a half. It's, I put my money where my mouth was. That's not debatable, but people will debate it and say he's a government, he's a some sort of a double agent. I don't know what, so I don't think the problem is that we're an echo chamber. I think the problem is we can't even agree on basic premises.
Fair point.
Who's next, Nathan?
That's me. I
It's
think.
Deb, yeah.
Okay. So this is kind of a big one that I've been pondering a lot lately. So from flying motorcycles, drones, AI, computer interfaces used for telepathy and moving objects with our mind, space travel, etc., quantum computing, it's pretty clear that we're a very different species from the other creatures on this planet, and we seem to be following the path of the phenomenon. So, what are your thoughts on why that might be?
Oh, that's a good question. I need to think on this one.
Yeah, that's a whole show and a half at least.
That's a.
I mean,
That's
I think it's
brain.
related. I think it's related to consciousness. I think that it, I think that as as we are beings that are able to have a higher order consciousness than the other beings that are here, we, in a way, can tap into that source of information and knowledge in ways that other beings can't quite do. And that opens up the possibility space dramatically between our capability and reality. So, and that there's a lot to get into from there, which I don't want to, but I think that the connection is about our conscious development. And as that conscious development progresses, our capability, what becomes possible, just becomes broader and broader over time. If we can even use that as a measure of change.
That is such a good question, Deb. For me, are we conduits of something else? What is it to be human? And your question has really given me itchy teeth and an itchy brain for sure. And for me, I think, what you've just touched on, Nathan, whatever this extra something that we humans have in comparison to the animal kingdom, is that extra something part of the bigger ecosystem of the universe, in which consciousness is a thread within that. And I think that's what the separation is, that we are of these bodies, but is our mind connected to the grander everything of the universe? Are we merely part of, well, we are stardust, we're made up of everything that is out there, but is there an extra connection that pins us to that? So I'm just answering questions with questions at this point.
We're not paying you for that, Holly. If you want your check, I'm just kidding. So, Deb, if you would, you gave some examples at the beginning, but if you could restate the central part of the question to make sure that I got it right.
Okay, so we're obviously very advanced at this point within the last 200 years, which makes us really different from the other animals on the planet.
Right.
They're not trying to go into space. They're not making quantum computers. And a lot of this seems to very much parallel the technology we discuss with the non-human intelligence and UFOs. So why do you think that is?
Well, I wrote down evolution and mimicking, but I think on our 2 broadcasts ago, when we spoke with Dave Smethurst and the great Dan Warren, his cousin in Tennessee, we discussed maybe we've actually lost something, that maybe they were the ancient Egyptians through the maybe with the help of the phenomenon were able to harness something that enabled them to leverage I don't want to use the word technology. Let's say an ability to be able to move 2.5 ton stones.
Yep.
First the 500-mile journey from where they were, the quarry was, down to the site, and then apparently Dave Smether sent me some today that said inside of those pyramids are stones that are more prone to transmit electrical current than the outside. There's more crystal and more quartz and so forth in part of those inner chamber stones. So I don't know necessarily that we've evolved so much, but in some ways we have from a technology standpoint. And I think it's because obviously our brain has enabled us to do that. And you'll hear I think it was Michael Masters talk about when we begin to start to walk upright, the brain is able to grow because it's not as confined by the stature, the leaned over, bent over stature. And also, Bigfoot has a little bit of that. It's largely upright, a little bit canted forward, but generally doesn't stand quite straight up. And if it does, the legs are still bent, but maybe that's why its brain for the woods is so advanced that Project X out in Oklahoma has been hunting them for a decade and have not brought one in. So I think that the answer to your question is, this is just simple technological evolution that's brought on by the expanding of the brain and figuring out, once we conquered fire and all these things, oh my God, that's incredible. That we're able to make fire in the wheel and all these sorts of things. And it just mushroomed from there. And of course, we're inspired by probably by what we've seen, that these hieroglyphs and these paintings and these artistic drawings on cave walls said that we've seen these things. And then somewhere you have a Copernicus and you have a Galileo and you have people that say, maybe someday we're going to be able to do what they can do. Well, we still can't, but hey, we're, as you said, Deb, we're pretty darn close. We're pretty close. So anyway, that was, I hope, did I answer the question?
Absolutely. I think, one thing I wanted to just throw out there is just another thought about it is like, just, you guys can just say yes or no on this. Do you think if we were to go forward 1 million years that the gorilla would be where we are?
Wow.
Wow, this is a great question for Michael Masters and Jeff Meldrum, and
I think the interesting question to add to that, would they be where we are without our help?
Yes. Boom.
Would they be where we are without our help?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I would answer that probably is no.
Yeah.
And so then what does that tell you about ourselves?
What does it tell you?
I personally think that we didn't arrive where we have arrived solely on good fortune and, sort of rudimentary evolutionary pressure.
Yeah.
The Lou hypothesis.
I don't think we're a happy accident at all. I don't think. I think there's an intelligent design behind us, and I've always thought that. I've always believed that there's more to our everything than there should be, and we don't know our power we don't know how powerful our connection to that is yet. I think we're just starting to understand that we and our consciousness is connected to a much greater highway of information. We just don't have the abilities yet to fully grasp that. I think the ancients did. I think we lost it somewhere, and I think it's slowly with some of the work that Gary Nolan does, and people, looking at that basal spice rack, whatever it's called in your brain,
basal ganglia.
Yeah, that's it. Boom.
It's in your spice rack.
It's in your spice rack. But we can't be a happy accident. We can't. There's no way. I don't buy it. I'm not buying that Kool-Aid.
So how many thousands of years ago did Lou say? Was it 35,000 years ago or 17,000?
I said 70,000
years ago. Thank you. So yeah, if I would have doubled 35, it would have been there. So 70,000 years ago, that's really interesting, Nathan. And I find that a very interesting hypothesis. And moreover, I guarantee you that Lou did, obviously, and I'm sure if he were here right now, he'd tell you, did not come up with that on his own. And he probably spoke to some very, very informed individuals about that. So
there's a theory related to that time frame called the bottleneck theory, that humanity almost died out around that time.
Okay.
There's tonight's rabbit hole. Thanks, Deb.
Yeah, thank you. And we so we got to get Holly out of here soon. So I'll give you guys Nathan, did you go yet? Because I don't want to.
I'm good, man. This has been an awesome conversation.
Okay, I'll give you mine real quick because this one is not going to be one that's going to take a whole lot of necessarily. It's not going to be as good as Deb's question, I'll tell you that. But so Nathan and I had a discussion the other day about how many groups, and Nathan, I think you said, speaking with EXO, that there's a pretty good theory about maybe, did you say 7 groups? Is that
I don't recall saying 7.
Oh, okay. I can't remember what. Maybe that was just in my brain and had nothing to do with that. But I'm curious with the different groups that have different. So I'm gonna do something really bad right now. I'm going to try to ascribe a human thought to a hypothesis about the intelligence, which I personally have as a no-no, because you can't ascribe human intent to something that's not human, and probably not a really, really more evolved future human. But so starting with you, Holly, do you think that among intelligences that seek to inhabit the planet and interact with us with an eventual goal, do you think there could be a bid for power amongst those groups, which is a very human thing, right? Bid for power. Do you think that's something that could or will happen or won't happen?
I think I very much subscribe to the whole sort of zoo theory. I think that we've been watched. I think we're being tested, monitored, and examined. I don't think that there's going to be a big strife for power. I've never felt that. I felt that they're watching to see what we do and how we evolve and what that looks like. Yeah, that's how I feel right now on that question, given what I know right now. Again, my views could change, but it seems too human that there's going to be this galactic battle and dun 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 around the earth. I just, these intelligences are advanced. I think has gone the let's cut each other's heads off and go to war. I don't think they play like that. I think they operate differently, the different groups, depending on where or what they're from, and what they occupy and what their advancement is. But I don't. It just seems really reductive that an advanced civilization, if that's what they are, that are millions of years more advanced than us, would be like, come on. I just don't. It seems very primitive. And I think we're a very primitive species in relation to them. So I think I maybe answered your question in true Holly style.
It was good. It was good. And as far as being monitored, you mean besides that ankle bracelet from the Liverpool constabulary?
All
right, sorry. Anyway,
we're not talking about that.
Nathan, will there be a bid for power among these intelligences?
I mean, I tend to side with Holly's perspective on this. I think that, it's not to say that there might be some attempt at, an agenda, like a certain agenda wanting to win the day, basically. But I don't know that it plays out in the way that like a human conflict plays out. I think that, I'd like to think, is the way to put it. I'd like to think that these other entities have a different perspective on conflict than we do, that doesn't involve pointy objects or, annihilation. So yeah, I'm going to say no.
Good one, man. I told you I was breaking a rule here, but go ahead, Debs.
Well, I think that Hollywood can talk to Ross Coulthard about the spheres tomorrow, because the spheres are part of a theory that the entire planet's being protected by a guarding system. By, I think it's Patrick Jackson is the one who has this theory. So he thinks that it's already happening, that one group set that up to protect us. And I have to think about the wood carving. I think it was the 1500s, Nuremberg, where they saw a battle occurring in the sky, and other accounts that people have described where something has occurred that looked like a battle in the sky. And so my answer is I do think yes, and I think it's already happening.
Wow. I see. I didn't even know there was anything in this question. I just was throwing it out there to see if there's anything to it. So thank you for illuminating through all your research, Debs. And now we got to go with Cabby goodbyes. Do you want to start us off, Debs?
Well, thank you, Holly, for coming and talking to us today. I super appreciate your insight and your work and your mission to get people to talk about this. Love it. And you're just amazing. And your cat ears. Love them.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You and your cat ears are welcome back anytime. And we look forward to doing that soon. Maybe another roundtable in the future. A British invasion, I think, DJ, maybe in the future.
Yes, sir.
We can get that going. And just want to encourage you to continue to do the great work that you've already been doing. We are supporting you from the sidelines and look forward to the things that will come from all of your efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah, Holly, and when we do plan this roundtable, it would be great if you could get us somebody from Ireland. We would really want to get someone from Ireland to be part of this. We've already got Dan from Wales, so I guess he counts as Welsh. But yeah, I would love to get somebody from Ireland to be part of it. That would be awesome.
I have just the person as well, just the person who you will adore.
Awesome. That'd be great. So yeah, we got to start planning. Got to come up with. Well, if we're gonna have someone in Ireland, U2's got to be one of the. I think we did U2 last time, so we got to find some other groups, maybe Van Morrison or something. But anyway, Holly, yeah, it's been a pleasure being your friend and getting to communicate with you and just feel your spirit. I know the community does, and you really resonate with so many people. And I'm glad this is sort of long overdue. I'm glad that we finally got this done. And it's just an honor to be your friend and to be able to collaborate with you. So thank you so much for coming and joining Cab today. We'll definitely see you again for sure. And obviously you'll be back for the holiday party again. So on behalf of, do you have anything? I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on. I joined this community fairly recently, and I've been welcomed with open arms, a couple of peculiar looks, but more so open arms. And I'm grateful that I get to share space. I'm grateful that I get to share soul. I'm grateful that I get to learn. I'm grateful that I get to have my views challenged and my worldview. We can debate things openly and honestly, and I think you guys are all doing phenomenal things. And thanks for the love, thanks for the support, and we've got a lot to come in the next couple of months. Yeah, I've got a few tricks up my sleeve yet, so we shall see what the future holds. Okay, one last time. We got to do it. I got stuff ready.
One last Holly.
It's fabulous.
But thank you so much for having me. I feel I'm going to have to up the ante next time, so I might have like a deer next to me or something.
That would be nice. Yeah, bring a deer into the crib, man. That was great. And we'll continue to bring conversations like this Cabby community outreach. Holly, do you want to talk about a show that your show real quick? Are you on a show at the minute?
No, these things are changing very fluidly around me, but Deb's mentioned it. I am holding a space tomorrow with Ross Coulthard tomorrow. And yeah, there's more to come on many, many fronts. So find me on the Twitter spaces quite regularly now at that UAP girl. Got to put that in for the self-promotion.
Can I get it?
Yeah,
Amen.
cool. Get it. Boom, boom. But thank
I'm
you
gonna
guys. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. We're honored as well. I will try to get up in that space and talk some trash with you and Ross Cotat tomorrow. If you would give Cab a like, give us a subscribe on the YouTube if you would, and then give us a rating on whatever your favorite podcast app. And the only reason we ask you that is just so that when prospective guests, when we ask them to come on, that they say yes, because we're not monetized in any way, shape, or form. Thank you, Jules, for doing what you did. Thank you for helping us out with the Bigfoot stuff as well this week. And on behalf of Jules, Hollywood, my homie, Deb, and of course, Money Nathan, this is DJ saying peace out. One love. We'll see you down the road. And as always, we're wondering what's up around the bend.